Absolute value equations. So we're going to talk about how to create equations from an absolute value equation to solve it, but let's go ahead and review what absolute value is first, which is one of our key vocabulary words and a key concept. So remember, absolute value is always positive. And sorry, my handwriting isn't all that great on the tablet, but always positive because we're looking at distance, right? Distance is always going to be positive. You're not going to tell me you're driving -5 miles. You're going to tell me you drove a total of 5 miles, okay? And then you'll see other properties, right? Again, always positive. The absolute value of a negative is the same thing as the absolute value of a positive because they're still going to end up positive. The absolute value of a product is the same thing as the product of the two separate absolute values and also the quotient. So to solve absolute value equations, we're going to basically create the two possibilities of where that absolute value could lie. And what I want to do is I want to bring this to a number line so you can see conceptually how it works. Because I know a lot of people just go, okay, just make two equations, but let's think about why. So if you take a look at the first example, example A, we have x plus 6, the absolute value of that equals 11. That means x plus 6 is 11 spaces away from 0. So I'm just going to take that equation and just redraw it as a number line graph. So if I'm 11 spaces away from 0, what are the two places I could be? Well, I can either be at positive 11 or negative 11. So this x plus 6 is either here on the right or here on the left. But we don't know exactly which way it went, right? We don't know if it went to the right or to the left, so we want to use both possibilities. So these two become the two equations I need to solve. So x plus 6 is equal to negative 11, or x plus 6 is equal to positive 11. And that's what they're saying right here, where it says you create two equations, one at a positive and one at a negative. Notice how nothing inside that absolute value changes. That plus sign stays a plus. If it was a minus, it would stay a minus. The only thing that changes is that c value on the other side of the equation, right? Positive 11 or negative 11 here. Okay? The only thing you want to note here is if c is positive, if that number, or sorry, excuse me, if c is negative, then there is no solution. And we'll look at that next. Okay? So let's go ahead and just finish solving A. So I'm going to do my inverse operations. So notice that's still carrying over from what everything we've been doing before. And I'm just going to get two separate answers. So x is equal to negative 17 or x is equal to 5. Let's go ahead and graph our solutions. And since we're looking at equality, we're just going to graph two dots, right? And then you want to check both your answers. So you have a blank number line. You can feel free to use whatever scale you want. Notice I have to get from negative 17 to 5. So I don't think I have enough room for that. So what I might do is I might go by 2s, right? And make it all fit. So let me go ahead and do that real fast. Okay, so hopefully your numbers will feel a little clearer than mine because it's a little harder to write on here. And then it's okay to estimate. So I know negative 17 is going to be between negative 16 and negative 18. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my dot there, right there. All right. And if you wanted to be very clear, just go ahead and label that number. Okay, same thing for 5. It's between 4 and 6. So it's going to be right about there. And in case you want to be a little more clear, just go ahead and label that in. And of course, you check both. I'm going to skip the check because I've been showing you the check for the other notes so far, and you guys know how to check. So you want to just make sure you check both those answers. Okay? So if we take a look at B, now this is where we're seeing, look at that equation here. Once we've completely isolated the absolute value, meaning there's nothing else around the absolute value, you want to see what is it equal. And remember, this number has to be what kind of number? It has to be positive. If it's not positive, we have no solution. So let me just fix my writing here. That negative 4 is clearly not positive, so that means there is no solution. All right, but again, you have to make sure the absolute value is completely isolated and on its own. So if we take a look at C, you don't want to jump ahead and say, okay, there's no solution because -3 is negative. It's actually not quite there yet. We need to isolate the absolute value, meaning what should I do to get the absolute value by itself first? Well, I'm going to add the 9 because I want to do my inverse operations. So I'm going to get the absolute value of 3x minus 6 is equal to 6. And now we see that C value, the number on the other side of the equation, is actually positive. So then I can go through and make my two equations and solve. And remember, once again, this means 3x minus 6 is 6 away from 0. So that means 3x, oops, sorry about that. 3x minus 6 is either at positive 6 or negative 6. So remember that sign inside the absolute value does not change. That's a big error a lot of people make. So make sure you don't change anything inside the absolute value. Okay, inverse operations. And you get 3x equals 0 or 3x equals 12. Finish it off with some division, and we're going to get x equals 0 or x equals 4. Remember, it's okay if 0 is on the top of the fraction. It's not okay if 0 is on the bottom. When 0 is on the bottom, we've got no solution. All right, I'm going to go ahead and graph this, and I can pretty much do whatever I want with my scale because 0 and 4 is nice and close together. So I might just start at, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Doesn't have to go through the whole number line. And just go ahead and plot your points. Remember, it's equal, so we don't need arrows. Okay? Cool. Go ahead and try those you-try problems, and you'll check those answers with the Edpuzzle. And I want you to see it's 1 through 6. All right, so please make sure you come back to class with questions and really think about how you solve an absolute value equation. Think about the concept of absolute value and how that ties into the way we solve.